Today, I want to talk about a topic that many of us experience in one way or another, but rarely take the time to understand deeply. Flirting. Some see it as playful, others as confusing, and a few as a dangerous game. But in reality, flirting is simply a form of human communication. It is the art of expressing attraction, interest, or admiration, often through subtle words, body language, or gestures. Flirting has existed for centuries across all cultures. Whether it's a smile from across the room, a witty remark in conversation, or a playful tease, flirting is part of how human beings connect socially and emotionally. But like any form of communication, it has rules, boundaries, and interpretations. So today, let's break it down, simplify it, and truly explain what flirting is, why people do it, and how to understand it in a positive, respectful way. Flirting is, at its very core, nothing more and nothing less than communication, but it is a very special kind of communication that goes beyond the ordinary exchange of words. It is subtle, playful, and often unspoken, yet it carries powerful meaning. Unlike formal conversations where the goal is to share information or solve a problem, flirting communicates emotion, attraction, admiration, and sometimes even curiosity. It is the gentle nudge that says, I see you, I notice you, and I want to connect with you. Many people mistake flirting for just a string of words or sweet compliments, but in truth, it is a language of its own, a mix of tone, timing, expressions, and gestures. When two people engage in flirting, they are not just talking, they are sending coded messages back and forth, testing comfort zones, and inviting a deeper level of interaction. What makes flirting fascinating is that it is not always direct. In fact, its charm lies in its ambiguity. A smile across the room might mean friendliness, or it might mean attraction. A playful tease might just be humor, or it might carry a spark of affection. The beauty is that the receiver often interprets it based on context, mood, and intuition. That is why flirting is sometimes exciting, sometimes confusing, and sometimes even misunderstood. But one thing is certain, it is an essential human way of breaking barriers, building rapport, and sparking connections that plain conversation cannot achieve. In fact, even children in their innocence use early forms of flirting. A giggle, a shy glance, a little extra attention, because it is part of our natural social toolkit. Adults, however, refine this behavior into something more layered and complex, making it an art form of interaction. Flirting communicates more than just attraction. It communicates openness, willingness to engage, and the desire to be noticed. Think about it. In a crowded room, you could speak to anyone, but the act of flirting singles out one person and sends a message that says, you are special, I am interested in you, in a way that I am not interested in others. And that is what makes it communication at its most intriguing level, not ordinary, not random, but selective, intentional, and meaningful, even if it is wrapped in humor, playfulness, or mystery. The psychology of flirting is perhaps one of the most fascinating aspects of human behavior because it taps into our most basic emotional and biological needs. At its simplest level, flirting activates our brain's reward system. A playful interaction, a warm smile, or a small compliment can release dopamine, a chemical that makes us feel pleasure, happiness, and motivation. This is why even the smallest act of flirtation, like someone holding eye contact a little longer than usual, can leave a person smiling for hours afterwards. It boosts self-esteem, creates excitement, and reassures us that we are seen, valued, and attractive. Psychologists often point out that flirting is not always about romance or physical attraction. It is also about social bonding, testing compatibility, and even establishing trust. When we flirt, we are not just sending signals to the other person. We are also reaffirming our own self-worth and charisma. There is something incredibly empowering about knowing that your smile, your wit, or your presence can brighten someone else's day. And this confidence often becomes a cycle. The more we flirt, the more confident we feel, and the more confident we feel, the more natural our flirting becomes. Interestingly, researchers have also found that flirting serves as a way of reducing stress because it adds playfulness and humor into social situations that might otherwise feel tense or serious. It is, in many ways, a coping mechanism for humans, a way to connect on a lighter note, even in complex environments. That's why you might find people flirting at workplaces, at social gatherings, or even in situations where romance is not the focus. It is less about love at first sight and more about creating a spark of positive energy. Another important psychological factor is that flirting often serves as a test of compatibility. Without committing to anything, people can explore how well the other person responds, whether they share the same humor, whether they feel comfortable, and whether there is mutual interest. This makes flirting a safe, low-risk way of exploring human attraction without putting everything on the line immediately. Evolutionary psychologists even suggest that flirting is deeply wired into us because it was once a crucial strategy for survival and reproduction. Those who were able to attract and bond with others had a better chance of passing on their genes. But beyond the science, the everyday psychology is simpler. We flirt because it feels good. It makes us smile, it lifts our spirits, and it allows us to step outside the boundaries of routine conversations. It is a reminder that human interaction is not only about logic and responsibility, but also about playfulness, chemistry, and joy. Verbal flirting is perhaps the most recognizable form of this social art because it directly uses language to spark interest, admiration, or attraction. Words, after all, are powerful tools. They can build bridges, melt hearts, or ignite curiosity with just a few carefully chosen sentences. When someone engages in verbal flirting, they might use compliments, playful teasing, witty remarks, or even gentle sarcasm to create a sense of connection that feels different from ordinary conversation. A compliment like, "That color looks amazing on you," is simple, but it carries far more than just admiration for clothing. It is a subtle way of noticing the person behind the outfit, showing attentiveness and care. Similarly, humor is one of the strongest weapons in verbal flirting. A lighthearted joke or clever wordplay can instantly break the ice, make someone laugh, and plant the seeds of a deeper bond. The beauty of verbal flirting lies in the balance between clarity and ambiguity. The words may be friendly on the surface, but the tone, delivery, and timing hint at a deeper meaning, leaving the other person both curious and engaged. In fact, much of verbal flirting depends not on what is said, but on how it is said. But the rhythm of speech, the playful pauses, the emphasis on certain words, and even the deliberate choice of phrases that invite a response. For example, a person might ask a seemingly ordinary question like, "So, do you always make people smile this easily?" On paper, it looks like casual conversation, but in reality, it is a flirtatious remark wrapped in curiosity and charm. What makes verbal flirting even more fascinating is that it allows creativity and personality to shine. Some people rely on charm through compliments, others use storytelling to captivate attention, while some thrive on quick, humorous banter that keeps the conversation lively and unpredictable. Regardless of the style, verbal flirting is not just about the words themselves, but about the emotional effect they create. A person who flirts verbally effectively makes the other feel seen, appreciated, and special in a way that normal dialogue rarely achieves. This is why verbal flirting often leaves a lasting impression long after the conversation ends. The words linger, replaying in the mind, bringing smiles, and sometimes even sparking deeper feelings. At its heart, verbal flirting is not manipulation, but expression. It is the art of using words to paint attraction, to invite connection, and to open a door into the possibility of something more than just a casual exchange of sentences. Non-verbal flirting is perhaps the most mysterious and intriguing form of attraction because it relies on silent signals that speak louder than words. In many cases, people do not even realize they are engaging in non-verbal flirting. It happens naturally, almost instinctively through body language, facial expressions, and subtle gestures that reveal emotions we may not openly admit. A simple smile, held just a little longer than usual, can carry more warmth and attraction than 1,000 carefully crafted words. Eye contact, in particular, is one of the strongest tools of non-verbal flirting. A glance that lingers for just a second too long creates a spark, a silent conversation of its own, filled with curiosity and unspoken emotion. Psychologists often say that eyes are windows to the soul, and in flirting, the eyes truly do most of the talking. Beyond eye contact, posture plays a vital role too. Leaning slightly forward when someone speaks, tilting the head to show attentiveness, or mirroring the other person's movements are subtle but powerful signs that signal interest. Even the smallest gestures, brushing a hand against someone's arm, adjusting hair while looking at them, or laughing with open body language, are silent cues that create a sense of closeness and intimacy without a single word spoken. The magic of non-verbal flirting is its ability to create an emotional atmosphere, a bubble of chemistry where two people feel connected without needing to declare anything openly. This kind of communication is often the most authentic because it bypasses logic and goes straight to instinct. Our bodies often reveal attraction before our minds do. For example, someone may not intend to flirt, yet their smile becomes brighter in a certain person's presence, or their voice softens naturally when speaking to them. These unconscious signs are what make non-verbal flirting so genuine and powerful. Unlike verbal flirting, which can sometimes be rehearsed or intentional, non-verbal flirting often slips out as raw, unfiltered emotion. And that is why it can be so thrilling, because it feels real, unplanned, and deeply human. Imagine sitting in a room full of people, and across the crowd, someone meets your gaze and holds it for just a moment longer than expected. No words are exchanged, but in that instant, a connection has been made, a silent thread linking two souls. This is the essence of non-verbal flirting, the language of the eyes, the movement of the body, the subtle energy between two individuals, creating a conversation without sound, yet carrying a depth of meaning that words may never fully capture. Flirting is not a universal language that looks the same everywhere. Instead, it is shaped and colored by cultural traditions, social norms, and values that differ widely from one society to another. What might be seen as an innocent smile or playful compliment in one culture could be interpreted as bold, inappropriate, or even offensive in another. In some Western cultures, for instance, open body language, casual touches on the arm, or witty banter are considered normal parts of flirting, and they are often accepted as harmless expressions of interest. On the other hand, in more conservative societies, direct eye contact, especially between men and women, may carry much deeper meaning and can even be discouraged outside of committed relationships. This shows that the very same action, like holding someone's gaze, can either be playful and casual or intensely intimate, depending on cultural context. In Latin cultures, flirting is often seen as a natural and lively part of social interaction, filled with expressive gestures, warmth, and charm. Meanwhile, in places like Japan, flirting may be far more subtle, with indirect signs such as polite gestures, respectful compliments, or carefully chosen words, because modesty and restraint are valued. Even the role of humor in flirting varies. What one society finds witty and endearing, another may consider disrespectful or out of line. Technology has added another layer of cultural difference as well, because digital flirting, through emojis, short messages, or playful likes on social media, may be more acceptable in some regions but frowned upon in others. The fascinating part is that while the methods differ, the underlying human desire remains the same: the wish to be noticed, admired, and connected. These cultural differences remind us that flirting is not just about personal style, but also about sensitivity and awareness of the environment in which it takes place. A person who flirts confidently in one culture may find their behavior misunderstood in another, which is why respect and adaptability are essential. At the same time, cultural diversity makes flirting richer and more complex because it teaches us that attraction is expressed through countless unique languages, each carrying its own beauty and depth. What unites all these variations, however, is the shared human experience of seeking connection. Whether through bold gestures or quiet subtleties, cultures across the world show that flirting, in all its forms, is a reflection of how people balance desire, respect, and creativity in their social lives. One of the most important distinctions that needs to be made when discussing flirting is the fine but critical line that separates playful, respectful flirting from harassment. Flirting, when genuine, is rooted in mutual interest, lightness, and fun. It is meant to create smiles, not discomfort. The essence of true flirting lies in reciprocity. Both people feel the spark, both enjoy the exchange, and both sense a level of safety in the interaction. The moment this balance breaks and one side continues to push attention that is not welcomed, flirting turns into something very different, something harmful. Harassment, unlike flirting, is not about connection, but about force and disregard. It ignores the signals of the other person, dismisses their discomfort, and seeks to impose attention rather than invite it. For example, a playful compliment can be charming if it is well received, but if repeated after the other person shows disinterest, it quickly becomes intrusive. Respect, therefore, is the boundary line. Respect for the other person's comfort, respect for their signals, and respect for their right to disengage at any moment. In healthy flirting, no one feels pressured. Instead, both feel free to laugh, respond, or walk away without consequences. In harassment, however, the power dynamic shifts and one person feels trapped, objectified, or unsafe. This is why understanding body language and listening to both verbal and non-verbal cues is vital. If someone avoids eye contact, gives short responses, or clearly says no, the respectful response is to step back, not to push further. Unfortunately, many people blur these lines, either because they misinterpret persistence as charm or because they disregard the other person's autonomy altogether. Society, too, plays a role in this misunderstanding. In some cultures, aggressive pursuit is falsely celebrated as confidence, when in truth it is often a form of coercion. Real confidence, in contrast, is knowing when to stop, when to read the room, and when to understand that attraction cannot be forced. When flirting is practiced with sensitivity, it becomes an enjoyable and mutual game of connection. When stripped of respect, it ceases to be flirting and transforms into something destructive. This distinction is not just about etiquette, but about ethics, because it determines whether an interaction uplifts or diminishes another human being. In the end, the difference between flirting and harassment lies not in the action itself, but in the reaction it evokes and the intention behind it. One seeks to bring joy, while the other imposes discomfort. Confidence is the heartbeat of effective flirting, the invisible quality that gives charm to words and meaning to gestures. Without confidence, even the most carefully chosen compliment or the most elegant smile can lose its power, because it will not feel genuine or natural. Confidence is not about arrogance, nor is it about overpowering someone with boldness. Rather, it is the quiet assurance that allows a person to be comfortable in their own skin while engaging with another. When someone flirts with confidence, they project warmth, ease, and authenticity, which makes the other person feel at ease as well. It is not the loudest voice in the room or the most daring line that wins attention, but the subtle certainty with which someone expresses themselves. Think of the difference between two people giving a compliment. One stumbles nervously, avoids eye contact, and rushes through their words, while the other speaks with calmness, looks into the eyes, and delivers the same message with a relaxed smile. The words are identical, but the impact is entirely different because of the confidence behind them. Confidence is also what makes flirting fun rather than awkward. A confident person can laugh at themselves, recover gracefully if their joke doesn't land, and never take rejection as a personal defeat. Instead of seeing it as failure, they understand it as part of the natural flow of human interaction. This resilience is what keeps the energy light and playful rather than tense or uncomfortable. Confidence also communicates value. When someone carries themselves with self-respect, it signals to others that they are worth engaging with, that they are not desperate for validation, but simply open to connection. At the same time, true confidence is deeply respectful. It does not try to dominate or manipulate, but creates space for the other person to respond freely. Interestingly, confidence can be felt even in silence, in posture, in eye contact, in the calmness of one's presence. It does not always need grand gestures. Sometimes just standing tall, smiling naturally, and speaking honestly is enough to create an aura of attraction. In fact, many people find confidence more appealing than looks, wealth, or charm because it signals emotional strength and authenticity. What makes confidence so essential in flirting is that it transforms the interaction from an act of seeking approval into an act of sharing energy. Instead of trying to impress someone, the confident individual invites them into a space of mutual joy and playfulness. And in that invitation lies the true magic of flirting, not in perfection, but in presence, in the ability to say, "This is who I am, and I am happy to share this moment with you." Flirting should, above all else, remain fun, because at its heart, it is not a test, not a transaction, and not a heavy obligation, but a playful expression of human connection. The moment flirting becomes stressful, manipulative, or one-sided, it loses its magic and turns into something entirely different from what it was meant to be. Fun is what keeps flirting light, exciting, and refreshing, a spark that makes two people smile simply because of the joy it creates. It is not about impressing someone with perfection or carefully rehearsed lines. It is about enjoying the spontaneity of the moment, laughing at the little mistakes, and embracing the unpredictability of human chemistry. Think of the most memorable flirting experiences. They are rarely flawless. Instead, they are filled with laughter, witty exchanges, maybe even a little clumsiness that made the moment more endearing. Fun is what removes pressure, making the interaction feel safe and inviting rather than judgmental or intimidating. When flirting is fun, it becomes a shared experience where both people feel like co-creators of a playful moment rather than participants in a competition. This is why humor is often at the core of effective flirting. A funny remark, a playful tease, or a light-hearted observation can melt barriers faster than grand declarations ever could. Fun also ensures that flirting remains inclusive, meaning that it can be enjoyed by people regardless of whether romance develops from it or not. Sometimes, flirting is simply about making a connection for the moment, creating a smile in someone's day, and leaving behind positive energy without any strings attached. In long-term relationships, keeping flirting fun prevents love from becoming routine. It acts as a reminder that attraction does not have to fade, but can evolve into playful companionship that keeps partners emotionally close. Fun transforms flirting into a celebration of presence, a way of saying, "I enjoy being with you right now in this moment, and I want you to enjoy it too." When approached with this mindset, flirting becomes less about seeking outcomes and more about enjoying the process, less about control and more about connection, less about fear of rejection and more about sharing laughter. And that is why fun is not just an accessory to flirting. It is its very soul, the ingredient that ensures it brings happiness, lightness, and joy, not only to those involved, but sometimes even to those who witness it from the outside.